You all, thank you for making the time. So I know it's busy as always. I wanted to start by just an apology actually, because we've had to change the agenda last minute. We were hoping to get some network members here to give updates on what the different networks are doing, but we were unable to do that. So I'm going to put a plea out before we even start. If you're a member of one of the networks, the many networks that ONF have in place, and you'd be willing to come and have a chat with a group of people similar to this, will you let either myself or I can never say your name, I'm really sorry. Aoife. Thank you. Aoife, no, so we can get you on the agenda for the next one of these, because it'd be really good to hear what other networks are doing. So the agenda for today, we're going to start, we'll hear from Sophie, part of the ONF team, on the new accreditation guidelines, which hopefully will be useful to a lot of you, because I know a number of you are working towards your next level accreditation. And then we've got Mark Kirkpatrick joining us from South Tyneside and Sunderland to talk about level 2 accreditation and what it's all about, his experience of working through that process. And then we'll finish up with Joe Pilling, who will just give us a bit of an update on what's been going on across the region in recent weeks and months. If you've got any questions or comments or anything, feel free to put your hand up, butt in, stick a comment in the chat, whatever works best for you. Really informal session and hopefully helpful for you all. So I'll start by passing over to Sophie. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. Great to see so many of you here. So today I've been asked to come along to talk about a few changes in the accreditation standards. So each year, the Towards Excellence Accreditation Steering Group run through the standards and check that they're still fit for purpose. And we have a bit of discussion about any new standards that we need to add in or any amendments. This year, we're pleased to know that there weren't that many. So we don't want to change the goalposts too much, but there weren't many. But I thought I'd just quickly talk through a bit about level 1 to start with and some of the red lines that have now kind of been introduced. And then go on to talk about a few changes in the standards. So if I share my screen, forgot I wasn't doing that, so that was helpful. But here we are. So hopefully you can all see that. So at level 1 now, there are, we call them red lines, so evidence that we need to see just for a handful of criteria when you send in your pro formas at level 1. Hopefully this will be easy for you to gather, and some of the things we would be able to check ourselves in the central team, but there's just a few of them here that the steering group picked out. So number 1 was the Director of Finance job description, so hopefully that's easy enough to get a copy of, so we can see that it clearly describes professional leadership training and development and equality, diversity and inclusion. The Finance Director declaration, that 100% has to be in place, but we can check that, so that's easy enough. And then the value makers and FACE, and the FACE training, which again we can check, so hopefully that's easy enough. And having a health and wellbeing champion. And then we think it's really important that every member of the finance function has an up-to-date job description, and also 1.2.b, every member of the finance function has had an annual appraisal, so has an appraisal in the last year. Whilst we don't require to see every single person's job description within a finance team or appraisals, if you have logs you're able to download to say when everyone had their last appraisal, or we would, for those 2 points, accept a written statement from the Director of Finance to say that everybody has an up-to-date job description and everyone's had an appraisal. So if this, we accept that from the CFO. We do ask now that everyone is registered with the relevant professional bodies before they send in their applications. We've had a number of organisations who have said they were in the process of getting it, and then a year later still have not had that signed off. So that is something now we're requiring organisations to apply for before and get their certificates before sending in their final submissions. But we have noted that CIMA aren't currently taking applications, and you don't have to get CIPFA because they charge for it. So actually, it is only ACCA and AAT if you have staff members of or studying with. So hopefully that shouldn't be too onerous. I think ACCA are taking a few weeks at the moment. So if you are not yet level 1 and you're looking to reapply, that would be one of the first things I would suggest that you look at. So the remaining 2 kind of pieces of evidence we need to see. One is the Finance Skills Development Strategy and Action Plan. A lot of organisations, when they've gone on for level 2, there's been a few that have not really had this in place, and at level 2 you have to report on it, so it's been very difficult for them to hit that criteria, so we're asking to see copies of that. I'm very happy to send through some examples anonymised from other organisations if that's something that would be helpful to anyone. And also, we'd like to see, we can check that you've got an I&D ambassador, but it'd be good to see that the completed checklist from the resource pack. So those are all the things that we need to see evidence of, but if you are level 1 and filled out your application, you should already have all these things in place. So hopefully it shouldn't be too hard to gather those few pieces of evidence and submit them with your application. So that's at level 1. So if we go down to kind of changes and criteria that are expected to be used from now onwards, these were signed off by the Finance Leadership Council back in May. So there are only 3 really. One is around the sponsorship programme, one is around software skills, and one's around talent management. So under personal development, the sponsorship programme now has its own criteria. At level 1, that is just promoting it within the organisation, which is in line with the National ED&I Action Plan. At level 2, we expect there to be a sponsor and a sponsee. However, we do appreciate that that's not always possible amongst the smaller finance teams, so there is some leeway there. And at level 3, to be promoting the programme out wider than your organisation, and evidence of active participation and outcomes of sponsorship relationships. So that's got its own criteria now. There already was mention of it in there on another criteria, but it's just now got its own explicit criteria. And then software skills. So Software Skills Network is a network all about various software skills. So things like Excel, Power BI, SQL, all those things. So it's a really useful network to be part of, and there's some real experts in there sharing all the little nifty tricks on those softwares. So now you have someone sign up, you can do that on the website. It's really simple. And at level 2, the organisation needs to allow time to get involved and learn a bit more about those softwares. So hopefully that is not anything too onerous as well. And then under workforce and career planning, there is now, we've edited the one that was already in there, which already mentioned succession planning and talent management. So it's now does refer explicitly to the One NHS Finance Talent Management Strategy, which hopefully you've all heard a bit about, and hopefully has started to be talking about talent conversations within your organisation. So that's just level 1, it's about having a talent management conversation. At level 2, it's about the pipeline discussions with the CFO and the senior team, and sharing them with the regions, which I think all CFOs should be aware of by now. And at level 3, it's about some case studies. And that is it. So hopefully there aren't too many changes in there, or anything that you'll find too difficult to prove. Or if you need any help, please just drop me a line. I'm happy to talk you through any of it in more detail. The only other change on the business controls, we've amended the wording on one of them just to make it clearer what we're asking for, but actually the standard remains the same. So I haven't actually included that in there. But hopefully that's nothing too difficult, and that's it for this time. So if just to remind you of the upcoming deadlines, for final reports and final submissions, it's the 31st of December. However, I have just put in the Finance Leadership Council dates for 2025, and due to diaries, the one that's usually takes place in January, where all of these get officially signed off, is actually not taking place until the first week in February. So if you needed the first week or so in January because of Christmas holidays, then you could have that as well. So just that might be quite useful for you to note. And anyone wishing to be assessed at level 2 or 3, hopefully you've let us know by now so we can start to think about assessors. Hopefully I'll have you on my list. If not, please let me know ASAP. And we'd expect to see your pro formas through the first week of January. So then we can read through and check there's nothing missing before we assign you those assessors. And I think that was it from me, Amy. I think it was a question from Sarah.
Thank you. So I was going to say there's one hand up and a few questions in the chat, so we'll go to Sarah first and then I'll have a look at the questions in the chat. Thank you. Sarah?
Hi, it was just a quick question. When are these changes coming in?
They're now. They're
live.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, they're live,
lovely.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've also been asked in the chat, Miles has asked on the accreditation front, does anyone have ICA EW accreditation?
I don't think they have a have a scheme at the moment. I think they stopped it, I believe. So it is just yes. As far as I could see, they don't have one at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. So that's not going to be a deal breaker, Miles, for
Yeah.
you and the team. Joe said yes, please, to the finance and development pack.
Yeah.
Nick's asked, a couple of people have asked actually if we can share the slides after the call. I'm sure that won't be a problem, will it?
No, of course not.
I've just shared the link to the talent management strategy in the chat as well for people that are wanting to have a look at it if you've not seen it already. And then Joe's just asked, why are organisations reapplying for a level already achieved? Is it to comply to new standards?
No, only if it's expiring. So if your accreditation lasts for 3 years, so if you're coming up to the end of your 3 years and you're looking to either reapply at your current level or move up to the level, then you have to comply with the new standards. But no, you don't have to reapply to the updated standards every time they come out, just every 3 years.
Fab, thank you very much. That's been really helpful. Has anybody got any more questions or comments? No? Thank you very much, Sophie. Much appreciated.
I'll put my email in the chat box and anyone can drop me a line if they have got any questions they can think of.
Fab, thank you. Do you want to unshare your screen and then we can see people again? Thank you. And I'm hoping, Mark, I think I might have just seen you appear on top of my screen. Are you here now? Mark's here to talk about his experience working through the level 2 accreditation. I think you've got it fairly recently, have you, Mark?
Yeah, we got accreditation a few months ago now, so I'll talk everyone through the process that we went through. All relatively painless. Just need to make sure you prepare properly, but I'll take everyone through it as best I can.
Do you want me to share the slides, or do you want to share them? What works best for you?
I'll share the slides if that's okay.
That's fine.
I can
Yeah.
control that, and if you could let me know you can see it, okay?
Yeah,
should be sharing now. Right. Well, thanks for inviting me, everyone. And I didn't realise Sophie was presenting today, so there's probably a little bit of repetition in terms of the content. So that's not a real problem because I think it drums home key messages. So I think I apologise if there is a bit of repetition, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Just for purposes of introduction, my name's Mark Kirkpatrick. I'm Associate Director of Finance for Contracting at South Tyneside and Sunderland FT. I've worked in the NHS for just over 20 years, as some of my colleagues keep reminding me. I'm a bit long in the tooth when it comes to several things, but one of the things I'm really passionate about is personal development, because I've been very fortunate through my career to get development at the right time to help me progress in the different roles, but also develop your teams, because I'm a great believer in if we can develop our teams to the maximum of their potential based on what they want, it makes all our jobs much easier. It makes everyone's much happier in the workplace, and it can help us deliver better outcomes for our services and the patients that we ultimately serve. So all in all, it's the FFF accreditation process is a brilliant process. It really helps focus our attention on what matters most, and it can help drive improvements in your department. So if you take anything from today's presentation, I encourage you to walk through the different levels. It does take a bit of time, a bit of effort, but it's well worth it. It's probably also useful if I give colleagues some background. Not everyone's from up here in the northeast. Some people are from a bit wider. So apologies for colleagues that do know this already, but South Tyneside, I'll give you a wee bit of background in our organisation and the history of it. We are a relatively new organisation in total, I suppose. We completed a merger 5 years ago now, in 1st of April 2019, when we merged South Tyneside Foundation Trust, which was a smaller, probably what would have been classed a district general hospital and community services, effectively, with City Hospital Sunderland Foundation Trust, which was a larger, more municipal trust, forming the new organisation. So clearly you've got a lot of issues bringing two finance departments together with slightly different cultures, slightly different ways of doing things. and obviously got a big organisation sort of working with a smaller organisation. So there was a lot of work going on at that point. We also had, well, everyone did, towards March 2020, we all get COVID, didn't we? And that really messed up everything we were working on, created a whole bag of changes, and obviously everybody went into like urgent mode, doing different jobs, different things, just to make sure everybody got by. So we were the same. I think we all did probably strange things that we never did before. I personally supported procurement guys delivering things across the site on numerous occasions. I think we all did a fantastic job. We did what we had to do to actually deliver services for our patients. So we got through COVID. The financial position settled a bit, and we all come back to our day jobs. And I think we, as a senior finance team in a relatively new organisation, we also got a new finance director back then, Hayley Wardle, who's still our finance director. And I think we sat back and we said, what's the best way that we can actually improve our department and try and become, if not the best, one of the best finance departments in the region. So I think one part of that was, and we've got a strategy now, but one part of that at the time was really embracing the One NHS Finance agenda, and specifically the FFF accreditation process as a way of actually benchmarking ourselves against what the standards should be. So I think that's the context in which we embarked on this journey, and I think everybody does it for different reasons. But for me, it's not about ticking a box to say that you're a level 1 organisation or a level 2 organisation. It's about embedding the benefits that these changes can actually deliver. Because I think we are seeing better engagement, we're seeing better staff retention, and I think we're getting better communication across our whole department as a whole. So I really encourage people to see it the way it's intended to be. And I'll just take you through some slides now. So if I get this right, I'm terrible with IT, believe it or not. But yeah, One NHS Finance, we've engaged in the agenda. It's got 3 streams to it. It's got the National Finance Academy, Future Focus Finance, and the Finance Innovation Forum. I particularly like Finance Innovation Forum because it actually shows aspects of really good practice. And we've got a process now where we review the innovations every quarter when they're published and see what would apply to us. Sometimes we're doing things just like it and we've just not got around to publishing anything. But I think sometimes we see some really good practice, and it gives us ideas for maybe developments or helps us tackle a problem that we're facing at that particular time. So we encourage people to look at that, and if they've not got a process for that, to develop it now. The accreditation process sits within Future Focus Finance, and it has been around longer than One NHS Finance, as we should all know, but I think there's been a much more focus on it in the last few years, and clearly we've been really focused on it probably since 2022. I've left a link in my slides which I've shared, and obviously we can share them around to everyone afterwards. So what is accreditation process? Well, I missed the start of Sophie's presentation, but it's really about a great way to check your organisation has all the right processes and procedures in place to make the finance department a great place to work. Essentially, you want to create a culture where staff feel appreciated and success is celebrated. So that's the definition, and it sort of talks around what we are trying to achieve from it. For me, it's just really proven that it's easy to do a self-assessment, but I think this gives you a framework to be able to say, yeah, we are doing this well, or we're not, and it gives you the ability to formulate an action plan to try and improve what you're doing. So all in all, it's about proving that you're as good as you think you are. So what are the benefits? As I've mentioned, it shows that you've got the building blocks that you need and should be in place. Also creates a way for continuous review of your processes to make sure you're constantly reviewing all aspects of the framework to show you're not missing anything. Strong points you can share, enables you to share learning, not just in your individual trust, but you can share it wider than that. And I think if your organisations are anything like us, we're quite a big organisation now. We have pockets. We have had pockets of really good processes, really good procedures, and really embedded ways of doing things. But other parts of our teams maybe haven't got that. So we've shared learning inside the organisation, and we've also taken learning from other partners as well. crucially, it identifies areas of weakness. So if you're doing the first part of this for us was doing self-assessment, and we've done that for level 3 now, and we've identified areas that we probably need to do better. So they're part of our finance strategy and part of our development plan going forward for the team. For us, it's to get ready to apply for level 3, but for other organisations who could be getting ready for level 2 or even getting ready for level 1. I also think it's for us. I think it's motivated the team and engaged the team. I think I'll touch on some of the key learning from level 2 as I go through this. But for me, we have finance away days now. Before we started this, we didn't have away days. We would have some communications, but now we've got we do them twice annually. We try and do one in the summer and then one before Christmas. So we've had that for a couple of years now, and that's well embedded. And we always make a point of having something on that agenda to talk about this. And that means everybody in the department knows about this. I would suggest 50% of our workforce was involved in the last accreditation process in some form or other. So I think it helps people know where we're going as an organisation, which is really good, and it helps people realise where finance, if they didn't know it already, where finance fits within the wider function for the trust. And I think for me, it encourages all our staff to work together. The way we do it in South Tyneside and Sunderland is we try and get participation from all our teams and our working groups. Yes, the senior team's got the leadership group of the trust, but below that, we try and involve colleagues in the finance and staff development network and so on, in both financial services, financial management, and contract. And so it's really about making sure everybody's going the same way. So I think the other thing it's done for us is help identify emerging talent, and we're really lucky in that we've got a lot of staff who are looking to progress, looking to do their qualifications, looking to advance, looking to go on that development journey. So that's been really positive for us. And another thing, and this is part of it, it raises your profile in the organisation internally and externally. So we engaged operationally with teams. We told them what we were doing. It's been in trust comms, our successes in doing this. And I've been in a few events like this where I've went through our journey, and clearly I'm going to be involved in local stuff up in the northeast to actually support other organisations get level 2 and hopefully help us get to level 3. So it's all about working together as a finance community. So we're sharing good practice either internally or across the local patch. And a big benefit to us is the recruitment and retention. We couldn't, like many trusts, we have struggled at times, and we still do struggle to recruit certain posts. But this has helped us retain staff, and I think it's helped us be a bit more creative in terms of trying to recruit new staff. Only last week or the week before, we actually were really lucky we've got approval to appoint 3 apprentices now. And that's a way that we are actually going to get new staff into our teams. We're obviously working with Joe and the team to actually try and be consistent with what the network's doing and what we're doing across the region. But I think for us, that was a big step to actually have 3 apprentices, which we hope will be the first of many. Hopefully, when they finish their 18-month programme, we'll take someone on after that. And hopefully one day these guys will progress to more senior finance roles, divisional finance managers, or ultimately lead the department one day. I think that's the ambition, isn't it? So I think that's really positive news for us as a department. The personal development benefits, I think training and development, it's been great for me throughout my career, but I think make sure that everybody's aware of it, make sure everybody knows about their finance development plan, make sure that they've got the training policy they can refer to it. That's been really good. It develops transferable skills because you do things not necessarily part of your normal day job. It takes you away from, enables you to look up for a change. I think we often talk about us being embedded in the day-to-day. I think for me, this work has actually really enabled me and the rest of the senior team to look up a bit, and that's helped me give other people space for the development that they need. So I encourage you to think innovatively, sorry about that, and it helps us build good relationships across departments, not just at senior level, but at junior levels as well. So it's something that's been really, really positive from our perspective. So I think Sophie's already talked about the levels of accreditation, so just I'll quickly go over that. Level 1, you make sure processes are in place. Level 2 is processes in place and they're working. Level 3 is the hard one. Processes are working and they're making a difference. So I think each level is a range of criteria, and they change, as you know, based on what the Finance Leadership Council needs and what the priorities of the system, or the service are. But again, it's about showing what good likes and actually providing the required evidence. So I mentioned our journey a little bit, but we started properly probably in 21, 22, and we committed to go for level 1. We sort of panicked initially. We thought it was going to be an audit. We looked at the evidence and thought, how on earth are we going to do all this? It's going to be really, really difficult. Lynn and other colleagues who are on the call today actually sort of gave us a slap and said it's not as hard as you think, and encouraged us to actually crack on and do it. And we did. Probably the most awkward part of that was the external accreditation. At the point in time when we did it, there was 4 bodies. We've got CIMA, we've got SIPFA, we've got AAT and ACCA. And they've all got different processes, all slightly different administratively. But once you realise that they're all asking the same thing and just in a slightly different way, it helps you get through it. So once you've done one of them, it's very easy to then sort of rephrase it or return it into a different template to actually get through. So ultimately, and I've reflected on this a little bit more in one of the other slides, level 1's a lot easier than you think. Level 2 is more difficult, and we did crack on straight from level 1 to level 2, but we do have to, it's about providing evidence for all the different criteria, and it is externally assessed. Level 1 is internally assessed, so you could argue that the finance director could just sign it off. That's not what we did. We did provide a lot of evidence, so that's why we felt we were ready to go for level 2 quite quickly. So we did that, and I'd say that's just been approved. The plan is to go for level 3 as soon as possible, but I realise the guidance now is that you can't do that for at least 12 months. So it's probably going to be next autumn that we'll be able to do that. But there is, I'll comment on that later slides, there's a bit of work to do to get ready for that. Level 1 learning, as I said, it's not as difficult as it could be. We had lots of examples of really good practice across the board. I would suggest there's about maybe 50 measures in level 1. And I think once we did that initial benchmarking, we were probably okay for about 45 of them. And then we just had to think about how do we top and tail the submission to make sure that we're happy with the evidence that we've got. And then actually turn around the actual documentation and the administrative aspects of the work and finding the time and space to do it, because you do have to do that. It's not, you can't just turn it on in a day and say, I'm going to make this submission on Friday. You do have to plan it in, but it's not as hard as we think. And I think one thing we did learn from it is you need to celebrate our success more. I think we, like a lot of finance teams, you get focused on the day job and you don't necessarily recognise that you've achieved a hell of a lot through the year. And I think that's something that we've really encouraged. So we've got much better comms now. We have Employee of the Month awards in every department basically, and we recognise good practice probably a lot better than we did. I don't think we've quite got to the point yet where people aren't taking it seriously. It is always meant with the right way. So, but I think it's important that we do that, and it's important that we recognise colleagues who have put that time and effort in to do a really good job. So, yeah. And the other learning from level 1 is like you do need to find space. You need to plan in the work. You need to recognise that it has to become part of the core job of not just the senior team or the team managing the process, but everyone really. Development is part of our agenda, and we've got to try and find time and space for it. Key deliverables. So what we more value makers. This everyone here today is probably value makers. So we got a lot more from it. We identified face roles. We've got EDI and wellbeing champions in the organisation. And in both of those areas, we're doing a lot of excellent work, as we had the evidence for actually our level 2 submission. We've got professional accreditation with CIMA, ACCA and SIPFA. As a CIMA member, that took a massive weight off me because I've been audited before. And when we weren't accredited, I had to pull all that evidence myself. And it was one of those things you've got to do on top of your day job. I don't have to worry about that now. I think as we're accredited, they recognise our own appraisal process has been satisfactory to address that. So again, I've seen my opens up again. I would encourage people to apply, and it's a good thing to say. We've got the certificates up in both financial services and financial management, so all our teams know that we're accredited, and it might help you recruit staff as well. The fact that you've got that, either staff who are training or staff who are qualified, so it's always got to be a positive. So we also, for level 1, developed a new finance training procedure. I think it's quite a generous training package that we've put in place. It's certainly a lot better than when I trained and when I did my exams and so on, and also supports people if for whatever reason that they fail the exam. So we'll support them through that on their journey. So I think that was a really positive outcome for that. And I think the one thing I sort of mentioned before, our comms improved a lot. Either that be through the away days that we set up, or the team briefs that we've got, or just general individual team meetings, that we've got a lot more of them now, and we've got opportunities for teams to feed back, which are all key elements you have to evidence as you work through the levels. Level 2 assessment process is externally assessed, and it's got 3 stages. So you review the application and the evidence. You've got an assessment day, or an assessment days, as was the case with us, with interviews with a range of different staff. And then there's the accreditation report, which is produced by the assessors and their support staff. So I've recently signed up, relatively recent, 9 months ago or so. I signed up to be an assessor myself, and I was shadowing one earlier this year. I'll reflect on that a little bit as I go through that, but that was done slightly differently, and that organisation was maybe in a slightly different position in terms of preparation from our organisation was, so that sort of didn't go as well as planned, but it just evidence to me that you need to do the prep work, and I'll go through what I think you need to do for level 2 as I'm going through this. So what additional asks I felt we had when we did our benchmarking for level 2? I think we reviewed our processes and how we develop and review the finance training plan. I think it was a bit weak, so we did that. We reviewed the structure and content of our team meetings, because I think we didn't necessarily have development as a key agenda item in all of them, so we changed that. And it was a case of how we evidence that we support we provide to non-finance staff and operational teams. So, well, we felt we did a really good job in that. How would we evidence it? And that was the key question that we kept asking ourselves. So the application process for us, I think Sophie mentioned that she's probably looking for applications to go in for December this year. And I think it was probably December last year that we were having conversations with Sophie and others. So I think our submission went in January. Sophie must have reviewed it, or with colleagues reviewed it, and then we got confirmation of our assessor around the middle to end of January. I put the 19th in there, it's around that time. So after the assessor was identified, and she was lovely, we met a few times, and we went through what she needed from us, and we agreed a timeline for when we would submit the evidence. We set up a Teams channel for the organisation submission, and all the evidence was saved in the little categories and a nice filing structure that the assessors could review and feedback on a timely basis. We also put our submission template in there for comments. So I found that all really easy, really transparent, and it helped, because we're used to these sort of processes. I think it really helped us pull together the evidence and make sure that we had everything we need. So we formally submitted the evidence on the 1st of March, although most of it was probably uploaded before that. And then the assessors reviewed it all and fed back. And there was another session on the 15th of March where they fed back on the evidence, the areas of strength, the areas of weakness, and where they might need extra information. Thankfully, that went quite well. There was maybe 2 or 3 specific areas where we had to actually submit additional evidence or clarify what we submitted, but there was no major concerns and nothing that created a blockage. If it had created a blockage, I suspect we may well have deferred the submission for a few weeks or months until we were able to provide that evidence. and we'd have probably suspended the interviews and assessment days that were planned. So I'll come back to the assessment day in a second. So what is the evidence? I think this is an earlier version of a control sheet that we had for level 2, and I think there must have been 55 measures, and this is my self-assessment process where I assessed the evidence of where we were at that point in time. If we were green, I felt we were ready. If we were amber, I felt, well, let's check this a little bit, let's do more. And if we've not got any evidence, we need to submit some. And I think what I've learned from our submission and also from the one I shadowed with Gloucester is that you need to put evidence in for every criteria and make sure it's referenced. But you can use the same evidence sometimes for several different measures. So it's not necessarily about like doing a whole massive piece of evidence for every single one. You'll find that the same bit of evidence covers multiple different areas, and it's 2 or 3 different things that will probably give the assessors enough assurance that they can move on to the next stage. And I think part of the assessment process is that it is quite supportive, and if there's gaps, they'll let you know. But they can also clarify the evidence and look for more evidence through the interview and the assessment process and the day-to-day when you're actually getting interviewed. And we found that through a combination of the evidence we submitted and the discussions with our teams, that it all sort of tallied up and gave the assessors a real good sense of the organisation and what we were good at and what we weren't so good at. Try and find case studies. I think our assessors found them quite useful because it actually shows where things are working well. And don't assume that evidence from 3 years ago is good enough. I think it has to be relatively current and it has to be reflect what you're doing at the moment. So the role of the assessor, I think I've touched and mentioned assessors before, and I think we're really fortunate. We got an assessor who was really, really supportive and had a lot of experience in doing it. But essentially, it's about giving an independent review of your application and the evidence. But it's still to support the organisation through the process to achieve accreditation. They do have to maintain standards, so they've got to make sure that we reach the standards from the guidance, and it's to promote the values of accreditation, which I've hopefully demonstrated today. But the assessors will also aim to do that when you're actually working with them, and essentially their role is to learn from it. I learned a great deal even from the Gloucester work I was working on. And I know that didn't progress, but they're doing a lot of great stuff. I've got every confidence that organisation is working at level 2. It was actually a level 3 assessment, but I've every confidence they're working at that level. They just didn't submit the evidence in the template form, and they will get that the next time round. And I think our assessors said that they learned stuff from us that we do particularly well, and that's really positive from us and our teams who did that. And I think it helps when someone says you're doing something well. I think that's really good messaging, and it helps. We did some comms around that in the Trust newsletter, and obviously we did a lot of work pre this with operational teams, and I think that was really good to actually say that the department's doing a good job, and we get feedback from the teams that we were doing a good job. That was part of the thing, so that was all really positive. So the assessment days themselves. So what we reminded staff was that it was about being a great place to work and to actually to prove that. And I think what the assessors are looking from this is just to get the perspective of the people that are working in the team and make sure that it's consistent with what the application says, and perhaps maybe ask for extra evidence in certain areas. So I think there was 2 different approaches that I've seen. I think the way we worked with our assessor is that we try to get a good cross-section of our teams involved in 3 group sessions. So we had colleagues from finance, contracting, financial management, financial services, and we tried to mix it up so it wasn't just financial services in any one session, so you could have a range of different conversations, also different staff at different grades. The other assessment I was involved in, they actually chose to randomly pick a sample of staff as opposed to look for volunteers. We were lucky that we got volunteers to do it, but I think I mentioned earlier, we had about 45, 50 members of our team, so about 50% of our team were involved in some way. So that was really positive. I think one of the things I probably took away from it personally was that anybody knows me, and I hope I'm not too critical of myself here, but I'm a wee bit of a control freak. So I was when I initially thought about the assessment, I was thinking, oh God, maybe I should attend every single session and I should be there just in case something goes wrong. And I think the main learning, I decided not. I decided I trust everybody that I work with and they're going to embody the values of the department. So we decided to just see how it went, and it went fantastically. And I think that's something I would encourage. Let that evidence, because if it did go wrong, I think we would have taken learning from it. And I think we've got to remember what this process is for. It's not about ticking the box. It's about making sure you're doing the right thing, and the development culture in your organisation is really positive. So that was a real good aspect of the work from my perspective. As I mentioned, we talked to different members of the team. The assessor will meet with your director of finance. There's obviously your finance director will have signed their accreditation, the submission. They will have signed off the statements and so on, but they will meet with them probably to get the sense that, yeah, that is part of the strategy for the department. Thankfully, Hayley's well on board with this. I think it's she's engaged in it, and going for level 3 is part of our finance strategy for the department for the next 3 years. So I'm very much convinced we'll make it. But you also have to make sure that there's budget holders and operational managers as part of your assessment base. So it isn't just the finance team, it's the people you serve and support. They'll be part of the process as well. So make sure they're lined up and that you've got them involved. For the assessment report, essentially, for part of the submission, you have to write a summary of what your organisation is and what your background is, and what you think you do well, what you think your areas of development are. That forms the basis of the assessment report. But what's also included in that is what the assessors have learned when they've visited your site. And essentially, the main objective of that assessment report is to make a recommendation to the Finance Leadership Council. It's a clear recommendation that should be either yes, approve it, or not at this point in time. But the assessor will tell you when they're going through the process what the recommendation is going to be. So I think they do work in collaboration with you. They're not going to at the 11th hour say, I'm afraid you're not going to pass this time, try again next year. They're going to work with you very closely to actually help you in that journey. And I wouldn't worry about that, because you've done all the work to actually get here. That's just the final output that you would get to. So what's next for us as an organisation? So as I've mentioned a few times now, it's level 3. I think that's the plan. We want to go for it. We want to keep moving forward with this agenda. We've completed a desktop exercise as I did for level 2, and I've got to be honest, I think it is a big jump for us to do that immediately. So I think Sophie and the work that she's doing is right to actually say you can't immediately apply for it. I think you need to ensure that you've embedded everything that you might have had to have embedded new to achieve level 2, actually to get to level 3. And the other thing, when you're going through the assessment criteria, is actually recognising that the difference between level 2 and 3. Level 2 is really to actually shows that you've got them in place and they're working. Level 3 is that the so what question, isn't it? That we often ask ourselves is like, so you've got them in place, they're working, but are they making a difference? So how are they actually improving you as a department? How are they supporting the development of your teams? And I think that's what's going to be challenging in terms of level 3. Out of interest for colleagues, I've done that assessment, and out of the level 3 criteria, I would suggest Lynn will probably happy here. I've not assessed us as red on anything, but on half of them I've probably assessed us as amber with a bit of work to do to actually get to green, and then half of them I think we're probably there with maybe some work, and so I've assessed that as green and achievable. My finance director thinks that's a green light for us to be able to do it right away, but I have to manage expectations somehow. But I think our plan is to deliver it, and as I mentioned, we've just published our finance strategy to support the organisation strategy and as an enabler for how we're going to support the organisation. So what will the key work streams be for us for level 3? So I think we have to, taking the feedback from level 2, I think we have to increase and formalise the amount of feedback that we get from both our teams and stakeholders. Yeah, we do surveys, yeah, we do the NHS staff survey, but how do we learn from that, and how do we embed that, and how do we generate the action plans that you get from that feedback and deliverables? So I think there's more we can do in relation to that. So we also have to enhance our current processes for how we identify training needs and meet the evidence of what our teams need. So I think I've provided a link there to the development self-assessment tool in the One NHS Finance website. So what I'm thinking about doing is using that, probably within my own team initially, to actually get colleagues to work through it and actually see what that tells you that you need. And that can provide a good evidence base for the training that's already available. So I think that's my plan, to actually support that, and then we'll see where that goes. That might not satisfy this, but if anything, it's going to help me and my team move that work forward. And I think Sophie mentioned the National Talent Management Strategy. We've looked at it, and obviously we need to look at implementing it and for level 3 and actually addressing it, and then looking at the criteria that have changed this year. So, but in summary, I think we need to build an existing good practice that we've got, find more opportunities to engage with a wider finance network, which we're doing today. And we should set specific objectives about increasing face roles, HFMA membership, and value makers. I think I would encourage everyone to be a value maker. I think it's really positive, and doesn't take getting more information is not going to create a problem for people, is it? I think it's a no-brainer for me. But I think our plan is to move forward with this as quickly as we can. Sophie, the finance director, would do it tomorrow if she could, but I'm trying to manage expectations a little bit. But I will be available. I'm linking in with Joe in terms of being not the fountain of all knowledge, but a reference source for colleagues in the North East to actually help them through their journey to level 2. And I'll certainly share anything that we've got that can add value for colleagues. So I think that's it. If there's any questions, or have I bored everyone, or apologies, I should have mentioned, I've lived in the North East for 25 years, but I've not lost any of my Scottish accent, and I happen to talk fast when I'm presenting, so apologies for that. But if you've got any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mark. You're getting a lot of little clapping emojis there, so it feels like it's been appreciated by many. I had a question. Doesn't look to be any other hands up at the moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and take advantage of being chair. You talked a lot about engagement, and I'm just intrigued to know how you've got that engagement going. Is it at all levels? Have you managed to keep it going once you've got your accreditation? And is it across all services?
I think it's not universal. I think I would be fibbing if I said we've got the whole finance team engaged and on board, but I would suggest we're well over 60 to 70%, I would say, who are on this agenda. There will be some people who will potentially never engage fully in this, but I think from my perspective, how we've done that is within my team, I lead the contracting team, and I work very closely with the income team. We have joint team meetings, and it's an agenda item all the time. We always make sure we bring it up, we encourage it. Sometimes you feel like you're banging the same drum, but people seem to be positive about the conversation. I don't know if Emma McDowell's on today, but I think she might be busy with a lot of other things. But if she was on, she would probably say something similar. She's got her team meeting, she's got her team briefs. It's just that constant communication, and I'll use opportunities, informal opportunities, to mention it. So I'll tell colleagues I'm presenting today, I'll talk about it, I'll bore them often, and to try and do it. So I think it's just about making sure it's something we talk about all the time. I think that's the way. I think you'll never get 100% engagement, but I think it's you just do your best. I think it's going well. It's going well.
Yeah, we were assessed in my old organisation for level 2, and one of the things our assessor said to me is, you'll never bring everyone on the journey with you. Put your energy and efforts into the people that want to come, rather than the people that don't, and it's stuck.
Yeah, I think so, and I think I'm going to assume there's none of these types of people on today's call, but it's mood hoover sometimes, isn't it? And I think sometimes you've just got to move forward and recognise what you're doing for the greater good, and you're trying to be really positive and not let that hold you back. And just encourage people to go for it, because I think you'll learn from it and you'll get better from it. And I think that's just that's something that's positive. And for me, I work in a very dry area, finance and contracting, and I think having this to work on every couple of weeks or every week to actually have a bit of my agenda that's focused on something much more positive than contracting is really positive for me personally. So I think once you're involved in it, it's very difficult to walk away from it.
Thanks, Matt. And Paul, I think you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it's a quick one. How do you, I've had this before when I've been to a clinical meeting, and it's sort of an odd one as a finance person, to answer this question and ask the question of how do you manage the expectations when people get to basically a ceiling level, because there's basically, you know, that the next level of are never going to leave for 5 to 10 years. So how do you manage the expectations when they get to that level?
So you
That
mean
makes sense?
expectations on staff in terms
Yeah,
of
and staff sort of going through sort of almost to get someone who's a bit of a high flyer, but you know they're going to have to get at a certain point, they're going to get stuck because you've got
Well-
three say direct finance managers on aids that aren't, they're all mid-40s, so they go nowhere.
I think the way I would consider that is like we've all got our individual appraisal processes, haven't we? And we've all got, as part of that, we should be developing our personal development plans. And I don't think development stops because you've reached a certain grade or you've reached a certain position. To be honest, I think I've got a PDP personally, and is that PDP going to get me another job? Or maybe not, you know what I mean? But it might. It makes my job more interesting. It makes me better at the job I'm doing. So I don't know if I can necessarily answer the question of how do we keep people engaged, but I think good appraisal, good personal development planning should actually help you with that. And the one thing I probably would say if you're appraising anyone is honest conversations. You know what I mean? Appraisal is not about box ticking. It's about actually identifying whether if there is anything that you can improve or if there's areas of weakness or areas of strength and so on. So I think I would suggest a good, proper appraisal process might alleviate some of those concerns. And there is people who've reached a point in their career where they're quite happy and they don't necessarily want to do more development, and that's perfectly fine. It's absolutely. I'm not going to force anyone in my team to do development. They're doing brilliant jobs. They're doing very valuable jobs. So it's not about necessarily everyone becoming a finance director or everyone being qualified, because there's other ways of developing, isn't there? You know what I mean? And we do a lot of stuff where we try and get colleagues to shadow other members of the team just to pick up new things and to make the job a little bit more interesting. So I think it's development's a personal journey, isn't it?
Yeah, get all that. I'm just thought and saying how it would then get managed in a sort of it's how you, it's not PDPs can do things, but I suppose it's expectations as well of how you get that suddenly that point of going right, because in effect you don't want to lose them, but the chance is if you're sitting in South Tyneside and Gateshead put an 8 out, are you going to lose them?
I'll be honest with you, Paul. I don't mind if we lose our staff because they've progressed. I see it as a wider benefit for the NHS, and I do want people to progress. And if that's outside of our trust, I'm quite happy with that. We will look to recruit from other organisations, and from my personal perspective, I'm not seeing the accreditation process and development as a internal sort of SDSFT issue. I think I mentioned earlier that I feel this journey for us has really helped us with recruitment and retention. So I think it's helped us get staff and it's helped staff stay in. Maybe not everyone, people have left, but I think less people have left and I think we've recruited easier. So I think it's helped us with that. And I think that we're never going to be able to satisfy everyone's needs, and people will move and people will progress. But I think if we see it within the framework of a wider NHS, it makes you a bit more comfortable. I've just one of my somebody I've worked with for a very long time's left the organisation. I'm gutted about it, but I'm happy for her. You know what I mean? So I think it's just a case. Well, we've got to do things for the right reason. It's about the whole point of accreditation is about making a good place to work. And if it's a good place to work, people are going to stay longer and be happier, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think adding on to that as well, one of the points in the accreditation is around secondments and what have you. So that partly supports that bit as well, doesn't it? That development. So you don't necessarily lose someone from your organisation, but you could enable a secondment to another organisation for them to get that development and that other experience potentially. We've got a few hands now. Jo, I'll come to you.
I'll just jump in before Joe's mute comes off. I think she's just trying to pad this out because I told her my presentation was only going to be about half an hour.
It's fine, we've got plenty of time. Jo, I think you're on mute.
Still on mute.
Can anybody else not hear Jo? Is it just me?
No,
I
she's
can't-
muted.
Yeah, I
She's
can't hear
muted.
you.
I can't hear her.
We can't hear you, Jo. It's saying that you're off mute, but we can't hear you. I'm going to go to Vivian while you're having a fiddle with your settings, if that's all right, Jo.
Might be a headset.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
Right. Right. That's great presentation, Mark. I just have a very specific question. Because CDDFT did level 2 accreditation, and I led on that. I must say it's very time consuming. I think the most difficult part is about clear evidence and how to present it. It is very difficult. So one of the things at the time I was a bit like struggled is about, there is one criteria in workforce and career about consideration given to EDI, equality, diversity, and inclusion. So I just wondering so what you did in your trust and how you present the evidence.
Well, we've got an ED&I champion and we've got an EDI working group. So what we presented is the work and the agenda that that team is actually working on. So they've done I think they've just actually issued a survey to the team, but we did. We've got volunteers and we had minutes of the agenda and the stuff that we discussed, and we also they took the necessary training that they had to do for that. So I think that's how we do it. We're doing surveys with the team as well, and obviously we've got a strategy for the trust for ED&I. So I think we aligned that sort of evidence to actually try and fill that criteria. I could look a link in specifically with you and go through that evidence if you want, and that might be helpful rather than sharing it today. So, and I'm sure other colleagues that have been through it may well have done something similar.
Right. Okay. It's just the bit like it asked for when using recruitment consultants. At the time, I was like so confused. How could we get that into place?
Yeah, well, we actually went to the agencies and asked them for their EDI strategy. I think so. We went to them and asked them to provide it, and we expected them to provide it so that they were complying with that process when recruiting. So I think we asked for that from them. So in other words.
Oh, sorry, Mark. So I know you mentioned in the agency, but then did you do that in your normal NHS recruitment as well to have that EDI strategy in your normal NHS recruitment as well?
Well, it's sort of embedded in what we do. So I think we looked at what we did and for any potential bias. And then we've looked at how we recruit as well to actually try and remove that. And that's what's been led by our ED&I champion to actually take that bias out. I think that's what we're working on.
Right. Okay then. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll jump back to Josie whether we can hear you now.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
I think I had actually lent on my mic setting without realizing. Oh my God, it's completely out of date now, but I was just responding to John's question and the expectations and not having anywhere to go. And Mark basically answered the question, I think, but it was just to add that the whole talent management strategy kind of tries to address that issue with having these talent management conversations, honest conversations about really addressing where people want to be and what their aspirations are. And if there isn't anywhere for them to go within that organization, then the idea is that they look wider. And it's kind of managing that process that if they don't, and again, like Mark said, not everybody wants to move on, it's about keeping them developed in the role that they're doing now. So I just wanted to add that. So thanks.
Thank you. Ghazala.
Thank you, Mark, for your presentation. My name's Ghazala. I'm from the West Yorkshire ICB, and we've recently got our level 2 accreditation, probably similar time as yourself. Thank you. And so what my question was that, you know, in preparation for your level 3, what would you say you think are the major challenges for you, and what you've got in place to sort of, you know, be able to overcome
Stop
those?
sharing the screen, but I think I mentioned it as part of the presentation that I've done a benchmarking analysis, and I've looked at where we were in relation to where I think we are. So I've looked through that, and there's half the criteria I'm assessing as amber because we've not got the evidence yet. I think it's for generally speaking, it's about proving that things are working and making a difference for teams. So we've proved that they're working, prove we've got them in place, but it's like, how do you prove that they're making a difference? That's through case studies and examples, isn't it? So it's about building that extra evidence together. It's also about adoption of the new strategies, the national talent management strategy, and actually showing that there's all that good practice in place. So I think what I'm happy to do, Ghazala, is perhaps share my benchmark assessment with you, and then I can take you through that. If you put your email in the link, I'll share what I've done in terms of the assessment and the overall work plan that I think we've got to do.
We've done a bit of a benchmark exercise too, and we've sort of identified which other areas that we need to improve on. But it's just, I think the main thing that we've got is trying to get the buy-in from everybody, because you need to get most of the department involved in it.
Yeah, well, I think we're okay in that area, if I'm honest, but I think there is other aspects which I think we need to work on further. I'm happy to have a one-to-one with you, and I'll go through our assessment with you to actually show you what areas I'm particularly concerned about.
Yeah, sure. I'll put my email address in the chat. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Lynn?
Just a comment kind of feeding on from that. When I've been doing assessments, it's the energy that comes from all the staff who are involved that really sells an organisation. So you can tell where organisations have put things in place, but they're not embedded, they're not felt by the individuals. And you can tell organisations where literally, if you talk to the most junior member of staff, they say how brilliant this is, that they get this, they get that. And that's really what sells it to me. So I absolutely think it's what you've been talking about linking it to a great place to work, which I know was one of Hayley's big passions from years ago. So it doesn't surprise me, but actually I think that's a great way of selling it, that it isn't actually about the accreditation as such. The accreditation actually helps you make it a great place to work. So even if you have to wait 2 years, and even if Hayley has to wait 2 years to get her accreditation at level 3, that will just give you 2 more years of being a brilliant place to work. So I think that's a great way of selling it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I'll jump on the back of that as well, Lynn. I'd written down as an assessor, for me, I really I want to get a feel for the team, how they feel, how much involvement they've had, what do they know about what's going on. And so, yeah, support 100% what you've just said. Sophie?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that as well, because I've been doing some assessments too, and it's you get accredited because you're doing all these wonderful things to make it a great place to work. You don't put these things in place to get the accreditation. It's about what's already there and embedded, and that's kind of the way I look at it as well. But yeah, so just wanted to add to that.
Thank you very much. Has anybody got any more questions or comments before we move on to Jo and her regional update? No, thank you very much, Mark. I found that really, really helpful. Are you happy for us to share the slides after the session?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine, yes.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thank you for your time. So, Jo, I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Okay. Thankfully, my mic's working now. That could have been a disaster, couldn't it? Can I just say thanks to Mark as well for stepping in and doing that again. I'll be in touch shortly to use you in your expert capacity. Right, I shall just share my screen. Hopefully, Amy, can you see my screen?
I can, yeah.
Right. It's a bit slow, so apologies for the lag. Can you see presenter view now, or do you actually see just the slideshow?
Just a slideshow.
Oh, good. It does work then. Just thought I'd check. Right. I've been told I've got 10 minutes, but on the agenda, but I've got a habit of talking for a lot longer than that, so I'll try not to. So just going back to the last regional meeting, for those of you that were here, hopefully this slide looks kind of familiar. We were trying to get together a full new set of value maker leads, and I went through like the setup of value making in the northeastern Yorkshire. So I'm just pleased to say that we do have that full set now. We've got 2 value maker leads from each ICS in the northeastern Yorkshire, which is absolutely brilliant. So thank you to all those people who stepped forward. And our 2 head value makers, as you probably know already, are Amy Denning, who's chairing this meeting today, and Jenny Harcourt, who's also with us today. So thank you to the both of you for stepping up for that, Mark, as well. We're in the middle of collecting pictures and biographies to put on the website so that you can see their faces and find out a bit about them. I think Amy's is on there already, but Jenny's will be up there shortly. So feel free to go and have a read. Just on the screen there, you can see the date of the next Value Maker meeting is Wednesday, the 13th of November. And the Value Maker leads will be getting together on the 26th of September to agree the agenda for that meeting. If anybody's got any particular requests of what they would like discussing at those meetings, please do let the Value Maker leads know. I think when we met last, we were talking about doing something on talent management from memory. But if anyone's got any other requests, that would be great, and we'll try and, as Amy said earlier, try and get something from the other networks. I actually do think, I'll just put this out there now, we've been talking about the value makers kind of being a way of collating all the information and actions and raising awareness of the things coming out of all the other networks. So it'd be really good to have a kind of regular slot on outcomes from other networks on a regular basis if you think that's a good idea. And that way we'll just make sure everyone's up to speed, because value makers kind of spread all of the other networks, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense. Anyway, that's just a thought. So just a few, just wanted to give you a few figures or a few pictorial representations. So in this slide just shows the movement in value makers, not that the numbers are the most important thing, but any movement in value makers from May to September. And you can see it's pretty much steady away. If it's gone down, I think that's because the ONF team did a kind of cleansing exercise. It's not that people are dropping out as value makers, but we do have some slight increases in 3 of the ICSs. I think West Yorkshire must just be a cleansing process going on there. But there you go. There's just a bit of a picture there for the northeastern Yorkshire across the ICSs, and then again across the nation. I quite like this. It's quite nice to see us right at the top of England there. That'd be good if we can be at the top, leading the way in all of these areas. So we're doing well. We've got 579 value makers in northeastern Yorkshire. The leads being northwest, but obviously these are just numbers, don't really represent the size of the region. So it's just a bit of information there for background. Hopefully next time I'm hoping to show you some figures to compare where we are in terms of a lot of the engagement standards and attendance at development programs. But again, I'd just rather do that when we've got a bit more background about comparisons, so that we're looking at like with like. So does anybody watch House of Games? I thought I'd do a little answer smash heading to this. Value making a great place to work. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight, you may have seen this already because the ONF have been sharing these documents, but there's 2 documents on here if anyone's wondering, as a new value maker, what they can do in their organisations and teams. So the NHS staff survey results came out from 2023, and the ONF have produced kind of a highlight of the top 10 organisations in terms of the staff survey, and the top 10 improving organisations in the nation, and highlighting things that they've been doing in those organisations to get those great survey results. And then the staff engagement PDF is all about ideas as a value maker and what the things are that people are doing in their teams as value making to help increase engagement. So I think these 2 documents are well worth a look if anyone's wondering what you could do as a value maker. The links do work when you're using these slides and you've got them in presentation mode. one of the things that you can do as a value maker is recognise and reward. So I've said this before, but one of the reasons often people leave their roles is because they just don't get any recognition for all the effort that they're putting in. So even if it's a small thank you, but you can't beat a bit of public recognition in front of a crowd of people to acknowledge all the work that people have been doing. So this is just to highlight the annual Value Maker Awards that are coming up. We just had a reminder email, I think, last week saying that the deadline is Tuesday, the 24th of September. I hope that's correct. I just wanted to highlight all the award, the categories for nominating individuals for this award. So please do encourage nominations as much as you can. This is not really a regional update as such so far. We'll come to that, but I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of the communications that are taking place nationally and in North Eastern Yorkshire. So hopefully you're all aware that the national OFNF newsletter comes out. It's emailed to all registered ONF people at the start of every month. And at the same time, they publish a blog that's available on the website, on the homepage under the latest. And that's just a 3-slide presentation for each of the work streams of what's coming up, events and resources that are available over the next month. But in addition to that, recently the Future Focus Finance Leadership Group requested that the ONF produce a video for use at team briefings that can just be run at team briefings or shared with staff. It's and they've produced a 10-minute video, and it's looking 2 months ahead. So the first one's come out for September and October. I've put the link on there. You can get to the videos through again the homepage. There's a link to the YouTube, the ONF YouTube channel. And you can see the latest video showcase reel. And I think that's a really useful thing to use because it's 2 months ahead. It gives people more opportunity to book onto courses and events that are coming up that they might not have that kind of headspace to book straight away for the next month. So these aren't emailed out or anything, they're just available on the website, but I have been sharing these, and hopefully the ICS leads in your ICS have been doing so as well. And as well as the national updates, the regional updates that are taking place are through social media. So we have our SDN teams promoting things on the LinkedIn SDN page and tagging in the ONF to keep people who are good on social media up to speed. We also have a regional fast finance update, which is kind of a local newsletter, but we decided that it wasn't something that we wanted people to have on every month. We'd just do one when we felt it was necessary. So we did one initially, I think it was in July, and we're going to do one coming up shortly, just to kind of get everybody up to speed with what's been happening over the summer holidays, with everyone being off a lot in case things have been missed. And I think there's going to be a talent management theme in that as well. We've also got the regional events and forums that take place, such as this one, and inclusion and diversity groups, junior conferences with the HFMA and SDN, and South Yorkshire ICS have got a finance conference on the 18th of September coming up as well. That's the next one in the diary. And of course, you've got myself and the other regional programme leads in the other ICSs, and working with the workstream leads to kind of keep you all up to speed, and we can be contacted about any queries that you've got. So that's just a little update about all the communications that are going on. And as well as that, there's the, I haven't even put that on here, the virtual channel as well. So there is a North Eastern Yorkshire virtual channel, the Teams channel through the ONF for this region as well. So this was just, I'm going to just rattle through these slides. So these are the slides that accompany the video update that I was talking about earlier. The video update is kind of adds to the slides and is useful because it gives you a bit of background information to all the things that are listed on the slides. But the slides can also be shared with anybody as well. So it's just a look ahead by work stream of things that are coming up. So Future Focus Finance, in highlighting demystifying NHS finance and letting you know about the Towards Excellence accreditation deadlines and that kind of thing. The Value Maker Awards and the date for the Value Maker Conference, and then resources for supporting our staff. And then we've got NFA updates. I'll come on to insights placements locally, and I'll do a bit on talent management as well. Sponsorship Summit, and then the Finance Innovation Forum. So there's all the showcases that they're highlighting on here as well. This isn't a complete list of everything that's going on, but it is just main highlights. And if you want to find out more, it's obviously a case of going on the website to see what else is available. And Sophie's put her details and, of course, a link to the One NHS Finance website on there for any newcomers in organisations. This would be a great kind of introduction to keep people up to speed. So coming back to our region, I just wanted a quick reminder of what's on our North Eastern Yorkshire Finance Academy page. Hopefully you all know, if you click on the Academies button at the top of the homepage on the website, you can pick your own academy, or you can look at what's going on in other academies for ideas as well. So this is kept up to date locally by Laura and Ben in our ONF/SDN team. And they're trying to keep people up to date with things going on in the region, as well as some national things that we want to draw people's attention to. So one of the boxes on there is tips on creating a great place to work, and we've got keeping you connected. So if you don't know how to keep up to date on social media, then this can help you, and how to register in all the relevant places to keep up to date as well. So please do take a look at the regional page, because it is more kind of important to us and relevant to us locally. Just a quick update on the talent management strategy. I've just put a link there to the talent management strategy if anyone wants to have a quick look at that. But I don't know if I did this slide about what it's all about. I'm not going to go into any great detail now, but it basically is succession planning on a wider footprint, with the aim that everybody has a separate conversation, literally looking at your aspirations, where you want to be, identifying whether you want to grow in the role you're in now, stretch into a different role, or accelerate to director of finance, whatever it is. But it's an honest conversation that needs to take place with every single member of staff, with the aim of helping you get to where you want to be, and not just looking within your own organisation, but across the whole ICS and potentially across the region as well, and identifying secondment opportunities, job swaps, which we're all going to have to work as a region to kind of help this take place, with the aim of it being for you as an individual, and to benefit the NHS as a whole, and make the NHS a great place to work, attracting and retaining talent and new people. So just a quick update on the local plan. So a report had to go in place to the Finance Leadership Group. I think it went in June this year. We were lagging a little behind in North Eastern Yorkshire region. Well, we potentially were, because we hadn't done a survey about where everybody was at in terms of implementing the strategy, or not even. If you have a strategy in place already, you don't have to adopt the ONF one, but it's just a kind of temperature check about where everybody's at in terms of managing their talent in this region. So a survey went out. It was sent to all of the deputies in every organisation in North Eastern Yorkshire, requesting that came back by the 27th of August, so that we could collate the results and feedback. Another report due in by the end of September. So that's happened. We're in the middle of collecting the results. Just to make you aware, the lead for talent management in this region is Roxana Naylor, and we've identified leads in each ICS as well to kind of take this forward. Once we've got a picture of where everybody's at in terms of conversations and progress in terms of the strategy, that will be reported, and it'll help us identify organisations perhaps needing support, or organisations that are ahead and that we can approach for support as well. So basically helping each other out. I've just put a few key dates on there about what the plan is in this region, with the aim that by the end of September, we've collated all of the information to report, and all CFOs have held talent management conversations. So sorry, the ICB CFOs had a talent management conversation with their CFOs in their ICS, so the whole of North Eastern Yorkshire. And by the end of October, those CFOs have had conversations with their senior team. And then by the end of March, everybody's had a conversation. You don't have to wait till then, but at least that's the plan, to have everybody have had a conversation purely based on their aspirations by the end of March next year. So hopefully you will start to see that happening. We have been collating resources to help people share this information, slide decks, and there's a bank of questions that's available if people aren't familiar with holding talent management conversations, and templates for recording these conversations and collating the information for wider discussion. Again, if you've got any questions, please do feel free to get in touch with myself or your other ICS programme leads, or Roxana Naylor, the lead for TM in this region. Linked to this as well, I just wanted to include the recruitment and retention strategy, because there's lots of really helpful resources out there on the ONF website all about retaining and recruiting good staff. And as well as that, I've put a link onto the Skills Development Network recruitment top tips as well, all really useful information for going out to advert if you've got vacancies and things like that. So that was just to kind of raise a bit of, make sure you're all aware that those resources are out there. And just to highlight as well, obviously every Director of Finance in this region has signed the Director of Finance Declaration, but we have produced a separate one coming out of the EDI action group. We now have an EDI pledge on the Director of Finance Declaration. This has been issued to all your Directors of Finance as well to sign up to, more so as a reminder of what it means to be inclusive and what's involved and what they're committed to. That's just come out very recently. Also, I just wanted to highlight the EDI group outcomes that I'm aware of. I am not aware of actions coming out of the other networks at this point, but I think maybe this is something that I can try and collate for the next meeting, and maybe have a slide on outcomes from each of the other networks. But I'll have a chat with Amy and Jenny and the other Value Maker leads about this as well, and see what the plan is going forward. They're looking at creating a neurodiverse action group, and there is an open invitation for people to get involved in that as a safe space to share their experiences. Sponsorship, they're looking at doing more bespoke matching, and any feedback on sponsorship programs would be very welcome. And just to add as well, anyone that's going out into schools and colleges to promote finance careers, using the outreach resources, etc., and just being a general ambassador for NHS finance. If you do that, Ben Underwood has a form which I've put the link for there to complete, just to help us inform, get some feedback on how that for KPIs and that kind of thing. I just wanted to update you on insights as well. So hopefully you're all aware that there is an NHS Insights scheme going ahead, the first one in place this year, and we've done really, really well in the North Eastern Yorkshire region. And we have 5 Insights employees in place across the Yorkshire and Humber ICSs, those 3 ICSs, and another 5 in North East and North Cumbria. Everyone, we've got lots of buddies. We've got 11 Value Maker buddies. So everybody's got at least an individual buddy to talk to when they start their placements in September. And we're also looking for organisations to host placements in 25-26. So there'll be a lot more communications coming out about that. We're being a bit of a pilot in this region as well, and we're pulling together, well, I say we, it's not me at all. Ben Underwood is doing a lot of work on this, and Laura Hartland-Adams, and with their colleagues, to pull together a curriculum for the Insight staff to follow when they start, so that it's a proper structured placement that hopefully they'll get lots of benefit from. So all good stuff happening up here, which it's really great to report. And that was it from me. So yeah, I think I've said everything I need to say. If anyone's got any questions, please do feel free to ask.
Thanks, Jo. There's a couple of questions gone into the chat while you've been talking. And I'm not sure you'll be able to answer this one, but Claire's asked, there's value makers in NHSE. Where do they get captured within the regional value maker reporting? Do we know, or do we need to go away and find out?
They do get picked up, but they're not currently on my list, so I don't know. It might, yeah, I need to come back to you on that one.
We'll have a look, Claire. We'll find out and see whether we can make sure that they're reported within the right regions. I think that's helpful to know. Jo, you've you've put, would you pick up the talent management conversations if conversations not explicit in the PDR? Do you mean where would you pick them up?
Yeah.
So where would you suggest we pick those conversations up if they're not within the PDR?
You'll have to remind me what PDR is.
Personal development.
Appraisal.
Appraisal.
So I'm thinking, because we're going for our level 2, so that's one of the things we need to do. Ideally, some of those type of conversations should have happened in the appraisal, but I don't think they're going to be explicit. So I'm thinking, well, we'll probably have to pick up a different conversation, but we could do it tagged onto the one-to-ones.
The recommendation actually is that the talent management conversation is totally separate to the appraisal.
Right.
So don't worry about it not having taken place already. There's plenty of time to get them in place.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is recommended that they're done separately. I think some people have an appraisal review 6 months after the actual appraisal conversation. So that's some organisations are doing it then, or and some are still tagging it onto the end. But the idea is that it's properly separate because it's not really linked to your work tasks, but it's linked to your personal objectives.
That's okay. And I would just type in something to go. I'm going to ask, could you please send me the list of value makers for Barnsley, because we've had quite a few leavers to different organisations.
You should be able to see them on the map on the ONF website, Jo.
Okay.
Aoife's just shared the link to that on the chat.
Yeah.
So if you click into that, you should be able to see them there. If it's out of date, I think, Sophie, for if people email the central team, is that the right thing to do if it's looking like it's out of date on the map?
Yeah, please let us know. It's constant moving, constant changes. It's difficult to keep up with. But if you could help us keep that up to date, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, super. Thank you. Anybody got any other questions for Jo or any other business? Anything else that you were hoping to get out of today that's not been covered? Nope. Well, this was in originally until 4 o'clock. We're finishing bang on time at 3:30, as per the revised agenda, which is brilliant, and hopefully giving